welcome to Deeksha Vedantu. I'm your Aditi Mam, and today in this video I have gotten you a very important chapter, that is life processes, the first chapter of biology of your class 10th. Now I know most of you will get serious by the end of summer vacations or the starting of summer vacations, or some of you might not get serious, right? But this is your sign to get serious about your study, because 10th class is a big thing. Bacha, boards, you are going to give boards for the first time. So in the spirit of that, we are going to start this chapter on a very high note. Now I know a lot of you guys might not have understood this chapter in your school, in your coaching, or wherever, whatever. Okay, but in this video, it's your Aditi Mam's promise that you will understand this chapter from the very basic to the very advanced, okay, to the boards level even. Okay, now starting this chapter, bacha, this chapter is very interesting. We are talking about life processes, all the processes that is happening inside our body, inside my body. The minute we eat something and the minute we do our business, all the stuff that happens inside our body, the biological stuff, everything we are going to study in this. Now, bacha, we talked about eating, and we are talking about the opposite of eating, right? So we all these have very specific terms, right? And we will study all of that in this chapter from the starting, and these all things are divided into 4 parts. Now what are those 4 parts? Those 4 parts simply beta are nutrition, respiration, transportation and excretion. Now nutrition, I eat something, and we talk a lot about nutrition these days, to eat healthy, eat our proteins, eat our fats, fibers, right? All that comes into proteins, all that comes in the form of food that we eat, and how our body gets energy from that food, right? Now transportation, respiration first. Now respiration, what is this? Ma'am, it is breathing. Is it? That's what you think? Actually, that is not. There is a very big difference between respiration and breathing that we will see. Technically, it's a process of breaking down the food and taking energy from it, right? That is respiration, not just inhaling and exhaling. Then transportation. Now food, it goes from mouth to the whatever part. Now that is the proper transpiration. It is going from our mouth to the anus, right? So that whole transportation we have to study. And then excretion, how that food gets out, how the minerals that are not of our body's use, like in pizza, the maida or the cheese is not actually what our cells need, right? But protein is what our cells need. So it will take protein and leave the cheese to go out. Okay, so all that stuff comes under this whole 4 processes, that is nutrition, respiration, transportation and excretion. Now let's study them one by one. Starting with nutrition, for the very basic we have bacha 2 kinds of nutrition. Yes, we have 2 kinds of nutrition. What is? One is autotrophic nutrition, and the second one is bacha heterotrophic nutrition. Now let's see what autotrophic nutrition is. So organisms, they prepare their own food. Ma'am, I know cooking. I prepare my own food. So I'm an autotrophic? Huh? No, you are not an autotrophic, because it's not like you're sitting in the sun and you're meditating and you're making your own food, and you come out and you say, Mama, I am full with sunlight, I made my own food. Do you do that? No. Who do that? Plants do that, because we cook our own food. We don't make our own food. These are 2 very unfamiliar terms, okay? They are not similar. Now, the organisms that produce their own food, those are called autotrophic organisms, or that is called autotrophic nutrition, not organisms. That is autotrophic nutrition. Now, inside autotrophic nutrition, bacha, we again have 2 parts. That is your photoautotrophic. Now we have studied what does photo actually means. I have studied it in bio, in physics, everywhere. Literally, photo bacha actually means light, right? So any plant or any organism that prepares their food with the help of light energy is called photoautotrophic. Done. Now the other one is chemoautotrophic. Now can you relate chemo to chemical? right? So all the organisms that prepare their own food with the help of chemicals is called chemoautotrophic, right? All the organisms in the soil, they use some chemicals and then they prepare their own food, so that is called chemoautotrophic. Okay, we have autotrophic, they prepare their own food. Then photoautotrophic, chemoautotrophic. Photoautotrophic, they prepare their own food with the help of light energy. Chemoautotrophic, they prepare their food with the help of chemical energy. Some of the differences we have in photoautotrophic and chemoautotrophic, bacha, is the energy sources. For autotrophic, it is light energy. For chemoautotrophic, it is chemical energy. All the chemicals present in our soil, like NO2, ammonia, right, H2S, all these things. Then what are the typical organisms? What are the example of the organisms that make their own food? That is, bacha, green plants, right? Cyanobacteria, or you can call it cyanobacteria, whatever you want. Okay, that is your blue-green algae. You have seen like algae formation on the lakes and stuff, right? So that is also a autotrophic nutrition, right? That organisms get their food through autotrophic nutrition. And what happens is, how do they prepare their food? With the help of photosynthesis. We studied about photosynthesis. We will study about photosynthesis now as well. Okay, so that is what an autotrophic nutrition looks like. Now chemoautotrophic nutrition is, the organisms are simply soil bacteria, right? Nitrifying bacteria that gets their whatever, that prepare their food with the help of nitrogen present in the soil, nitric acid, ammonia, all the things that are present in the soil, they help prepare their food with the help of those chemicals. Okay, and what are those? What happens is oxidation of inorganic chemicals to obtain energy. We have studied about oxidation, right? So that happens with the inorganic chemicals that are present in the soil. They break it down, they oxidize it and obtain energy from it. You don't have to remember that much. Just remember that they gain energy with the help of chemicals. Done. Now moving on to heterotrophic nutrition. Now what is heterotrophic nutrition? Bacha, just the opposite. The organisms that do not prepare their own food are called heterotrophic, like you, like me, right? Everybody, every mammal, cat, dog, goat, whale, everything, okay? Everything is a heterotrophic, everything comes under heterotrophic nutrition. Now those are also under three types. What is holozoic? What is that? First is holozoic, then saprotrophic nutrition, and then parasitic nutrition. Now starting with holozoic, ma'am, what is holozoic? That the food is digested inside the body. When we eat food, it is digested inside our stomach, inside our all the esophagus, that everything will learn, right? Small intestine, long intestine. So all that stuff that is digested inside my body is called holozoic nutrition. Then we talk about saprotrophic nutrition. Food is digested outside the animal's body by feeding on dead and decaying matter. So what happens? Have you seen a bread that goes bad and you've seen the yeast piling up on it? So that yeast is actually making its food, is actually taking the food on the bread. The yeast is not swallowing the food. It is digesting the food on the body of the bread. And once digested, it gets full. The bread gets bad, right? Because it took all the nutrients out of the bread. Correct? The fungi, they feed on dead and decaying matter. They feed on dead and decaying matter. When our food gets bad, fungi and yeast like piles upon it and starts eating it outside the body, and the name is saprotrophic. First is holozoic, inside the body, saprotrophic, outside the body, inside the body, saprotrophic, outside the body, and parasitic, extract nutrients from other living organisms. Now, have you ever gotten leaves, okay, in your hairs? So what is that? We call it jume, right? So what is that? It lives on your head. It takes all the nutrients out of your skin, out of your hairs, and lives on that, but does not actually kills us. Okay, these saprotrophic, they kill the bread, right? The bread is now gotten bad. It's of no use, but my head is still of use, right? Even though lice is there, right? No, not in my head, but in anyone's head. If in anyone's head lice is there, they still have their skin, they still have their hairs, but they're just going bad slowly. They are getting nutrients. They are not able to get proper nutrients because lice has gotten those nutrients, right? So they don't actually kill this organism, the one they are feeding upon, they don't kill it, but they take all the nutrients out of that, right? So that is called parasite, parasitic. We use the word parasite a lot in our normal conversations, right? So that is the meaning of parasitic. That is where it came from. Done. Now, bacha, this is the main two types of nutrition. Now, what we are going to study is stomata. Moving on a little bit to plants. Now, the nutrition in plants also grow. They in sunlight, they grow and they give leaves, they fruits, they give flowers, right? So, they also happen to have some nutrition in them, right? So, for that, we are going to study stomata. Now, what is stomata? So, bacha, you have seen some leaves, right? So, on that leaves, if you see very closely, you will see small pores. You will see small pores. What are those pores? Those pores are actually stomata. Stomata, right? So stomata is the tiny pore-like structure present on the surface of leaves. What is the role? The role of stomata. So stomata is a pore, right? It opens, it closes, it opens, it closes. In the daylight, it opens. In the night, it closes. So what is that for? Exchange of gases. We know oxygen enters into the leaves, carbon dioxide comes out. No, carbon dioxide enters, oxygen comes out. So all that is happening through these pores, right? Transpiration is one of the main their functions, right? Then opening and closing of stomata. This is how they look like. They close and they open, right? Understood? Now, talking a little bit more about plants, we have to talk about photosynthesis, but in desert plants. Now, in desert plants, what happens? It's the reverse. In the daylight, stomata is closed. In the daylight, stomata is closed. Daylight, stomata is closed. So absorption of light energy happens and that light energy converts. There is thing called malic acid inside these plants. So it is converted into glucose. Now glucose is a form of energy and my plants need energy. So what happens in the daytime? Stomata is closed, or in that is, I think I wrote that ulta. Okay, so what happens in daytime? The stomata is opened. I just told you, right? So in the daytime, stomata is opened. So absorption of light energy happens and malic acid is converted into glucose as the food, right? In the night time, the stomata is actually closed, right? Now CO2 entered. The CO2 was entering. It enters, right? Then water is absorbed by the roots. Now since the stomata is closed, you cannot get energy, right? So what it does is it absorbs water from the roots. The water goes up from the roots, understood? And formation of intermediate. So these are the pores. Okay, so from these pores light energy comes in, malic acid converts into glucose and CO2 goes out. Done? Okay, then moving on to, we have a very important, see, we studied a cell, right? Now in cell we studied about unicellular organisms, multicellular organisms in the 9th class. Now in that we studied about amoeba. Amoeba is what? Amoeba is a unicellular organism, ma'am, right? So we are going to study nutrition in amoeba, right? So we have to start with the unicellular organisms and understand how actually amoeba eats food, gets nutrition. Okay, so what happened? Let's understand the diagram first, then we'll move on to the science part of it. Okay, biology part of it. Now, what happens? This is amoeba and is like floating in the universe, in the whatever they live where. Okay, now the amoeba sees a food and it goes like, okay, food particle, I am very hungry, let's go have some food. Now what is it? It has hands, it goes and it chews the food. No, of course not, right? It just has one cell. So what it does, its shape is very flexible. So it's just floating around. So let's say these are the two parts of amoeba, this one and this one. So here is the food. So it goes like this and captures the food and take it inside and then eats away, takes the nutrients and then this leaves the food out. Okay, so this is the food particle. So this is the nucleus, the one cell we have. Now what it does, it tries to capture the food. It tries to capture the food, that is called pseudopodia, right? Now this food is captured, right? So when this food goes into the cell, this area gets there where digestion is happening, that becomes food vacuole, where the food is present, where all the digestion is happening. And once it nourishes itself, once it gets all the nutrients, it leaves the rest part. It is the remaining part. Now it absorbed all the nutrients. Now it's like, I don't need this part. This is waste, right? This is waste. So it kicks all the stuff out, and all the waste comes out, and that is called egestion. Okay, let's study about. So what happens? First is amoeba, then amoeba, then we come to pseudopodia. What is that? Extension of cell membrane. So whenever this cell, this is a single cell, right? Whenever this is extending, that is called pseudopodia. Right? Then bacha, it captures the food. We saw it captures the food, right? And formation of food vacuole. It forms a food vacuole. Now in that food vacuole, digestion is happening, right? Digestion is happening inside food vacuole. Then bacha, it absorbs nutrients. Then we have some undigested food that it doesn't want, and it moves to the cell surface. It moves back to the cell surface and then ejects the food out, and that is called egestion. Why did I write it down again? Okay, it is called egestion. Done. This is what digestion inside the food vacuole happened. So all the digested part, all the nutrients, it got diffused into the cytoplasm. We studied about cytoplasm, the jelly-like substance of the cell, that is called cytoplasm. So this cytoplasm gets all the nutrients, and then it absorbs all the nutrients, and then the undigested food goes out. Done. Understood everything? Was that hard? So what happens? Amoeba, pseudopodia, captures food, formation of food vacuole, digestion inside the food vacuole, absorption of nutrients, undigested food, moves to cell edges, or you can write, what was it? Cell surface, right? Moves to the cell surface, and then egestion. We'll study about egestion, don't worry. Done? Understood? Okay. Next, bacha, we have a very important, now we're moving on to human digestive system. This is one of the most important topics, bacha. You will have to make the diagrams. The diagram, it will definitely 99% this diagram will come on your board examination. Okay, and they will ask you 5 to 6 marks of question asking to explain all the digestive organs, right? So this is you, me, everyone, every human around us, right? So what we do, the first step when we eat something is we eat that stuff we pick that stuff with our hand and put it in our mouth. So mouth is the entry level, right? This mouth is the entry for our food, right? Now this is also called buccal cavity or buccal cavity, right? All these have different pronunciations. You choose yours, buccal or buccal cavity. Okay, now bacha, let's study one by one. Then we have tongue in our mouth. Then this long pipe, bacha, this long pipe that connects our mouth to our stomach. That is called esophagus. Then we have a lot of stuff in between. We have lungs here, right? That will study in respiration. So we have lungs here, we'll study that in respiration. Until that, we are focusing on digestion. So we have stomach. Obviously we have stomach. We have our gallbladder, we have this liver, we have bile duct, pancreas. All these helps in digestion. We'll study in just a minute. Give me 1 minute. Okay, then we clearly have small intestine. This is the small intestine. Actually it is very large, but it is just bundled up, so it is called small intestine. This is the long intestine, right? And this is the appendix, and this bacha is your anus, where eventually food comes out, right? Now let's understand all these one by one. Now, first of all, what is the definition? A coordinated series of mechanical and chemical processes. Ma'am, how is this mechanical? Is there a screw in my body? No, but when you move your jaw, that is a mechanical movement, right? So, a coordinated series of mechanical and chemical processes. Now in my stomach there is so much acid, so that is a chemical process that helps to break the food, right? That convert food into absorbable nutrients and eliminate waste is called a human digestive system. Okay, so the first is entry level, ingestion or oral processing. Now what is that? The first thing we do is the food enters our mouth. So what is our mouth? Mouth, we have teeth which performs mechanical digestion. Our teeth are actually performing mechanical digestion, right? That is chewing. Then we have some other stuff in our mouth as well, the tongue. Beta, the tongue is not just for speaking, okay, chapat 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 chapat. That is not what the tongue is for, okay. Tongue is actually for to taste our food. There are so many taste buds present on our tongue that helps us to identify this is sweet, this is sour, this is spicy, this is too spicy, this is too sweet. There is nothing like too sweet, okay. So tongue is, it positions food and mixes with the saliva. What is saliva? Now bacha, we have two salivary glands in our mouth. One is here and one is here. We have two salivary glands. What it does, it produces a liquid kind of stuff. We have salivary glands and it contains salivary amylase. This liquid, whenever we see some good food, the pizza is here. By now you must have understood that I personally love pizza. So whenever pizza is here, we say that my mouth is watering. Right, we are getting saliva in our mouth to see that tasty and hot food, right? So in that saliva bacha, it is present salivary amylase, or we also call it ptyalin, right, which converts starch into maltose, We are not just here to understand, we are here to memorize and learn as well. So mouth, mechanical chewing, then tongue, it helps us to taste the food, then saliva, salivary glands we have it in, right, that is salivary amylase present in it, which converts starch to maltose, right. This saliva bacha is a watery fluid containing enzymes and mucus that moistens our food, right? So if our mouth is completely dry, how hard will it be to chew that food? If you eat just the pizza without the cold drink or the cold coffee, it will feel dry, right? Even our saliva is not enough. But imagine the saliva is not there. How dry our food will feel, right? So that is why saliva is there to convert starch into maltose. Done. Now the second thing we have in our digestive system is transport. Now bacha, we talked about mouth. Now the food is here, okay, it passed from here. Now what happens? Now the food goes into this long pipe. This long pipe is called esophagus. It is called esophagus. Now this esophagus bacha, it is peristalsis, coordinated contraction relaxation. Now what happens? This esophagus, now it is continuously doing like this. It is continuously doing like this to move your food downward. If it's just sitting, there is friction inside our body as well between food and the pipe. So food might not go down. So it is continuously doing like this so as to push the food downwards. So it has coordinated contraction and relaxation that propels the food, or our bolus we call it, towards the stomach. So it is basically used to send our food from mouth to the stomach, right? Now bacha, coming on to stomach. Now this is my whole stomach. My stomach is paining. No, this is not your whole stomach. Your stomach is like here, okay? It's a J-shape organ. It's a J-shape organ. Can you see it? It's a J-shape organ. So your stomach is somewhere like here. Now what happens in the stomach? So in stomach beta, we have gastric glands. We have gastric digestion happens. How? There are gastric glands in our stomach. So what is gastric? Now this gastric glands beta, they produce gastric juices. Now what are gastric juices? Gastric juices actually helps to break down the food, right? We all know there is acid in our stomach. What is those? A gastric juice. Now in gastric juice, we have three components. We have pepsin, we have hydrochloric acid, and we have mucus. Now this pepsin beta, this converts our proteins to peptides. That is, it breaks down our foods. It breaks down the proteins that we eat. right? And it converts into peptides that are easier to extract nutrients from, right? So this is called proteolysis, right? So protein is converted into peptides. Now one very important thing is this: when the protein has to be converted into peptides, the stomach is like, I won't do it. How will I do it? How will I break the protein? So that happens only at very low pH, 1 or 2, and we know that low pH means acidic, right? Acid has low pH. So stomach is like, okay, you need low pH stuff to break down the food. Okay, I'll send you the low pH food, low pH stuff. So it made hydrochloric acid. Now acid is low pH, right? So HCl, it lowers the pH, right? And activates the pepsin, which converts protein into peptides. And also sometimes we eat some bad things, so some bacteria might have gone into it, some germs might have gone into it. So this HCl also helps to break that down as well. Okay, but sometimes this HCl is too much. You have heard people saying, I'm getting so much acidity, it's burning. Why is that? Because of that HCl, right? This HCl gives a burning sensation in our stomach if it is produced in a large quantity. If you eat bad food, stomach will produce so much acid, and that acid reflux, we call it, it comes into your esophagus, right? And it harms your esophagus. Even you have, I'm not trying to scare you, but there is something called esophagus cancer. Okay, so if you eat so much bad stuff, so much acid will be formed, so much acid reflux will be produced, and it gives ulcers into your esophagus. Okay, leave that. So don't eat that much pizza. Okay, I'm just trying to make you understand. Okay, now if a lot of hydrochloric acid is there, we have to control it. There comes the mucus. So it protects our gastric epithelium from corrosive HCl. Now you tell me, if you touch a concentrated HCl, I know, you know, your skin will burn, right? So how is my stomach not burning? That is how this mucus is protecting our stomach from burning. It's like a lining. Inside our stomach, we have a lining that helps corrosion, that helps the corrosion due to HCl of our body, right? Understood? It maintains the HCl amount and it protects our stomach lining or other organs to get hurt from the HCl. Done. Okay, now the fourth part is our small intestine. It is the final digestion and absorption part. Ma'am, finally. What finally? Did you understand it, everything? Then it's not hard. First is mouth, second is your esophagus, third was your stomach, right? Now the food goes into small intestine. Now actually the small intestine is very, very large. It is even longer than the large intestine. But because it is bundled, we call it small intestine. Now, it does three things. First is secretions. Now, what happens is, bacha, in the small intestine, in the stomach, the food was broken down, but it still goes to small intestine. Okay. Now, small intestine sees, stomach did not do it worked properly. I have to break down the food even further. Now, what should I do? So, it takes help of its friends. Who are the friends of stomach? Small intestine. Who are the friends of small intestine? Liver and pancreas. Liver and pancreas. So, stomach, what am I doing? Small intestine, it goes to liver and it's like, hey bro, I need your help. Okay, so bro is like, yes, what help do you need? So it is like, I have to digest the food, but how should I do it? It's like, okay, I'm sending my man. Okay, so what it does, it produces bile juices. Now this bile juice is produced by liver, but it is stored in gallbladder. Which is something here. This is your liver and this is your gallbladder. Right? Now, bacha, this gallbladder, it stores the bile juice that helps to break down, or what we call it, emulsifies the fats. That helps to break down and emulsifies the fats. It breaks down the fats present in our undigested food that came from the stomach. right? Now the food is still not completely digested, it's still not completely broken. So though the small intestine like, okay, even the liver was not enough, I have to call my another bro. Hey bro, pancreas bro, send me some army bro, I have to kill some food. And the pancreas is like, okay, I'm sending my men, right? So then it produces pancreatic juice. Now this pancreatic juice, bacha, it contains amylase, which breaks carbohydrates, right? And it contains trypsin, which breaks down proteins. It contains lipase, which break down fats. Hard, a little hard it is, but what do I say, everyone? Practice, practice, practice. It has the pancreatic juice has 3 components. It has amylase, it has trypsin, it has lipase. Amylase, trypsin, lipase. Now amylase, see, A is very close to C, so amylase break down carbohydrates. Done. Then trypsin is, the T and P are still closer. PT, TP, okay? So trypsin breaks down proteins, and then lipase breaks down fats. Done. What are the remaining fats that the bile juice didn't break down was broken down by pancreatic juice. It has 3 components, that is amylase, trypsin and lipase. Done. Now after all that, what actually happens is this carbohydrate, bacha, it is converted into glucose. This carbohydrates got converted into glucose, which our cells need, which our body needs for energy, right? Then proteins are converted into amino acids, which are again works in the absorption of nutrients. Amino acids is needed by our body, right, to produce energy, and these fats are converted into glycerol and fatty acids. Done. These 3 things happens. The carbohydrates in your food converts into glucose, the proteins in your foods is converted into amino acids, and the fat is converted into fatty acids and glycerol. Done. Okay. Now, beta, the last thing that happens inside the stomach is your absorption. So what happens is, this absorption occurs through villi. There is a structure called villi, V-I-L-L-I. So this is your stomach, okay? Now it has finger-like projections. See, finger-like projections. So it has finger-like projections, through which your nutrients, these nutrients travel from here, and they go into your organs, into your tissues, into your cells, okay? How these reach those cells? Because it enters into blood vessels, and then through those blood vessels it goes to the cell. Done. Your absorption occurs through villi, finger-like projections, which nutrients enter blood vessels and then to the cells. And eventually, mitochondria produces the energy that helps us to work after we eat food. Right? Done. Okay. Few things that are left is your large intestine. Now the food is absorbed and all the nutrients, we converted those nutrients to very important, converted the food into very important nutrients, right? Now we have some undigested food, the waste that we don't want, right? But out of those waste, that waste now goes to large intestine, and large intestine is like an officer. It sees, does the work happen good? Is there any kami? Right? So that's where reabsorption happens. That is, your water reabsorption happens in large intestine. It absorbs water and electrolytes, and that waste, the undigested food, it concentrates, it gets all the water out of that waste, and the waste is now a little bit towards the solid side. Okay? And hence we say formation of feces. Now feces is your waste matter, your business that you do in every morning. Okay. Now this is microbial fermentation may produce gases and short chain fatty acids. Now in this large intestine there are microbes like that are breaking down your food, so that their fermentation happens sometimes of that waste, which may produce gases and some fatty acids. Okay. Now the undigested food moves to the semi-solid mass, to the rectum. Now, ma'am, what is rectum? I've heard it. That is the part where egestion comes in. Rectum and anus. Now, rectum is the part, bacha, where the solid waste is stored. right? Rectum is the part where solid waste is stored, your fecal matter is stored. Then it happens, defecation expels the waste via the anus, and after that the solid waste is stored in the rectum. Through the anus it gets out of our body. Done. Now egestion. What is egestion means? It means removal of indigestible, unabsorbed material from the body. Right? Done. Done. Whole digestive system. Any doubt in that, you can write down in the comment section. You can come and join the live sessions, and also subscribe to the channel for all of that. Okay? Understood? Okay, now beta, the next thing after this we are going to see is respiration. Now we are done with the first part of our life processes, that is nutrition. Now comes to respiration. Ma'am, what is respiration? Ma'am, inhaling, exhaling, ho gaya respiration, done. But that's not the case, right? Respiration is done, that's not the case. Respiration is more than just breathing. This what we did is breathing. So breathing is what? Process of inhaling and exhaling the air in and out of the lungs. It takes place in the lungs, right? The breathing, it takes place in the lungs, and it is a physical process. I took the air in, I exhaled it, so it is a physical process, right? And energy is not produced. No energy is produced when we take oxygen in, when we give all our air out of our body. Okay, done. Now what is the difference then? Respiration, ma'am. What is respiration? Now respiration, bacha, breathing is just the inhaling and exhaling of food. Respiration is the breaking down of glucose to produce energy. Breaking down of glucose to produce energy. Now our stomach, it converted carbohydrate to glucose, proteins to amino acids. Now still we have to break that to produce the energy. Where that happens? That happens in respiration, the process of breaking down glucose to produce energy. And when we saw that through absorption from our small intestine, through absorption, all the nutrients goes into blood vessels and then to cells. Now inside that cells, the glucose is converted into energy. So this respiration, it happens inside the cells. Done. That is the one thing you have to take care of. Then we have, it is a chemical process. Of course, breaking down of glucose to form energy, it is a chemical process. Understood? Now energy is produced in the form of ATP. Again, we studied that in class 9th, mitochondria. Mitochondria makes the energy in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Understood? Adenosine triphosphate. Now, bacha, this respiration is also now of two more types. Done. This respiration is of two more types. Now this is aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Simply, in aerobic respiration, oxygen is required. In aerobic respiration, ma'am, oxygen is required. Obviously, I'm inhaling. Arey, you are still confusing breathing with respiration. Respiration is breaking down of food, breaking down of glucose into energy. Now sometimes oxygen is needed, sometimes oxygen is not needed. The aerobic respiration, oxygen is needed. Then it occurs in cytoplasm, the jelly-like substance of the cell. It occurs in cytoplasm and mitochondria, where the energy is being formed. Right? Complete breakdown of glucose takes place. More energy is produced. Right? And end products are carbon dioxide and H2O, and the carbon dioxide we exhale out. Right? Not all the energy is produced. Energy is produced, we use it to dance, right? And what the waste product of respiration, that is your carbon dioxide, right? And water, we'll study that in excretion. What happens with this water? It goes out, right? Through urine, through our sweat, right? So all that comes out. This water and carbon dioxide are the end products, are more like the waste product. Done. Then bacha, we have anaerobic respiration, where oxygen is not required. Oxygen is not required to do the respiration. That is a new thing, right? So in it also happens in cytoplasm. Incomplete breakdown of glucose takes place, so less energy is produced. Obviously there is no oxygen, right? So the substances do not get completely broken down. They do not get completely broken down, and hence less energy is produced. Okay, its end products are also carbon dioxide, but it also is ethanol and lactic acid. Ethanol is kind of an alcohol, so it is produced. The end products are, in aerobic respiration, end products were water and carbon dioxide, but in anaerobic respiration the end products are carbon dioxide and ethanol and lactic acid. Understood? These are the basics of respiration. Now moving on further deeper into respiration, how it actually happens, right? So what we do is, we have glucose, right? This is a 6 carbon molecule, C6H12O6, right? This is our glucose. So it goes into the cytoplasm, we just saw. Now inside the cytoplasm, it breaks down into pyruvate, that is a 3 carbon molecule. What? It breaks down into pyruvate, Pyruvate. First glucose goes into cytoplasm, it breaks down into pyruvate, that is 3 carbon molecule, and it breaks down into, it gives some kind of energy. Now there are 3 cases. First, aerobic aspiration happens, respiration happens. Okay, so in aerobic respiration, we need oxygen, right? So in oxygen, and whenever it goes into the cell, in the cytoplasm, it goes into the cytoplasm. Now it sees, does we need oxygen or do we not need oxygen? Okay, we do not need oxygen. Let's send it into mitochondria. So in the presence of oxygen, this pyruvate goes into mitochondria, and there it is converted into carbon dioxide, water and energy. Which energy is used? Carbon dioxide and water are the end products. Done. Now there is one more case where it's a lack of oxygen, absence of oxygen happens. Well, let's say absence of oxygen first. Now there is no oxygen needed. Okay, that is in yeast. In yeast, for the respiration, no oxygen is needed. So what happens? It sees, okay, no oxygen is needed. Yeast hai, okay, no oxygen is needed. Now what happens? In cytoplasm only, it breaks down into ethanol, carbon dioxide plus energy. It is a 2 carbon molecule. Ethanol is a C2H6. C2H6 is ethanol, 2 carbon molecule. In the absence of oxygen, that is in yeast, this pyruvate breaks down into ethanol, carbon dioxide and energy. Then now there is a case of lack of oxygen, not presence of oxygen, not completely absence of oxygen, but a little bit of oxygen is present. So in that way, what happens is, okay, the cell wants oxygen to process the respiration, right? But there is no oxygen. So what happens? So it's like, okay, this is lack of oxygen. So this actually happens in our muscle cells. When our muscles are not getting proper oxygen, what happens? It gets converted into lactic acid and energy. It gets converted into lactic acid and energy. This lactic acid, then when we are not getting the oxygen, right? So all this pyruvate, this glucose is converted into lactic acid. Now after that, when the oxygen comes, it again gets converted into energy and carbon dioxide and water. Okay, but until there is no enough oxygen present to do the process, actual process of respiration, it gets converted into lactic acid. Okay, done. Until here everything is clear, right? Until here everything is clear. Okay, bacha, now we come to breathing. Ma'am, breathing, respiration, this is all we are doing, but respiration is different, breathing is different. Okay, we studied about respiration. Now what about breathing? What happens when we inhale? Nothing. I don't know. A lot of things happen when you breathe. So what happens whenever you inhale? First you inhale, right? Why can't I write anything now? Yes, first you inhale, right? As soon as you inhale, the air that is present in this room, it goes into my nose, it goes into my nostrils. So this is your nose, nostrils, right? It's also called the nasal passage. After the nostril, it goes into the nasal passage. This whole tube, which some of you might have touched, that you shouldn't do. then that is called your nasal passage. That can also be called as nares. Okay. Now bacha, after that it goes into pharynx. Now after that it goes into pharynx. Pharynx. Okay, so after this nose it goes into pharynx. This whole structure, it is called your pharynx. Then now after that, before that we have this larynx, right? Pharynx, larynx. This larynx bacha is your voice box. The voice you are hearing me do this and teaching you, this comes from this box, this voice box called larynx. Then this goes into, there is a thing called trachea. Now what is trachea, bacha? In trachea, right, this trachea is like this structure, this bone type of structure, right, which protects our windpipe. It protects our windpipe to protect. Then this goes into bronchi. Now bacha, we have lungs. Okay, we have this lungs. So air goes into the nasal passage and it goes into the nostrils, then pharynx, that larynx. So do you see this? If you even touch, you'll feel the round things, the rings. That is your trachea, right? Then these are rings of cartilage, and then bacha, it goes into different path in both of your lungs, right? That is called your bronchi. Done. Now inside that you have bronchioles and then you have alveoli. Done. The branches of bronchi, it's called bronchioles, and at the end of those bronchioles, see, these branches, they are called bronchi, and at the end we have alveoli at the end of your bronchioles. Then these are your alveoli. These balloon type of parts, these bacha are called your alveolus. Done. Now what is alveoli? This is very important part, and it can be asked in your exams, in your board exams as well. Okay, so what happens bacha? It is basically a site for exchange of gases. Actually at the end of alveolus, so our the air goes into nostrils, then nasal passage, then trachea, then pharynx, larynx, bronchi, bronchioles and alveolus. Now where it will go? Now from there the exchange of gases happens. The O2 goes into blood vessels, and from these blood vessels the oxygen is, the CO2 is absorbed by bronchioles and exhaled out of our body, right? Now obviously when we inhale, it expands, right? It expands when air enters, hence it gets large surface area. Now it has very thin walls for the exchange of gases, and it is very moist. Okay, it is very moist, and it has rich network of blood vessels. So many blood vessels are present on the end of this alveoli. Then it is a rich network of blood vessels. Now bacha, what is happening? We have oxygen. The oxygen when moves to blood vessels, it gets bound to hemoglobin, and hemoglobin then carries the oxygen and goes to all the cells. Okay, and that is how our cells gets oxygen. Right? Now carbon dioxide, it is mostly dissolved in plasma. No one is there to get there and take it and reach it, take it back to lungs. No, it is just floating inside the plasma, from where it gets absorbed by the alveolus and exhaled out. Done. Now comes the most important part of breathing, that is inhalation and exhalation. Now inhalation, also known as inspiration, right? Inspiration. Exhalation, also known as expiration. Then now bacha, inhalation, in this the main part of inhaling and exhaling is this diaphragm. What is it? Diaphragm. Now when you inhale, your lungs expand, but your diaphragm is the reverse of that. Your diaphragm contracts when you inhale. When you inhale, your diaphragm contracts. Then this diaphragm goes downwards. Okay, it contracts and it goes down, forms, and it becomes flat. Okay, what happens when inhalation, lungs expand, but due to the expansion of lungs, diaphragms contracts, it goes down because lungs have taken most of the space and it flattens up. Okay, now air enters the lungs through the nose, that is inhalation. Then exhalation is what? When exhalation happens, now all the air goes out, lungs contract and diaphragm is like, oh, finally I have some space. So diaphragm is relaxed now, right? Now the diaphragm goes in the upward direction and it takes a dome type of shape, takes a dome kind of shape. Okay, flattens up when the lungs are, when inhalation, when lungs are expanded, it flattens up, but when lungs are contracted, exhalation, it takes a dome kind of shape, this kind of shape. Okay, and air goes out of the lungs through the nose. Done. Okay, so in inhalation or inspiration, diaphragm actually contracts, it moves downwards. Where is the downwards? Okay, it got stuck here. It moves downwards. And in the exhalation, bacha, in the exhalation, this is exhalation, okay? In the exhalation or expiration, diaphragm relaxes and it moves upwards. Done. So almost respiration is completed in our human body. Now let's see respiration in some plants, in some animals which lives under the water. Now how do you think fishes breathe? How do you think fishes breathe? We breathe with lungs. Do they also have lungs? Do they also have oxygen inside the water? Yes, we have oxygen inside the water. So there is also oxygen molecules flying inside the water. So what happens? Fishes also breathe oxygen, not like plants. They don't take carbon dioxide in, they take oxygen in. But from where, ma'am? There is oxygen present in the water molecules, isn't it? Right? So that oxygen these fishes take, but they don't have lungs. They have gills. Fishes, they extract oxygen from water using gills. This water holds much less oxygen than air. That we agree. Water has a little less oxygen than the matra of oxygen in the air, right? The concentration of oxygen in the air. So it takes very much, it inhales a lot more than a normal human does. So we normally take 18 to 20 breaths in 1 minute. These take 40 to 45 minutes because a lot less oxygen is there, but they need equal amount of oxygen. So in our one breath, I can take lots of oxygen in because there is lots of oxygen in the air. But in one breath, fish cannot because there is not so much oxygen in the water, right? So they breathe a lot more time than us. Okay, so fast ventilation compensates for low oxygen availability. So when they take so many breaths, it compensates for the low oxygen. Then now, bacha, talking about plants, we just have two things in plants. First of all, this exchange of gases we studied, it happens due to on the side of stomata, right? Stomata, because these are pores, they open up, they close down. Now, they opens in light, and what happens? CO2 enters and photosynthesis happens, right? CO2 enters and photosynthesis happens, and after that this water loss happens because the pores are opening, so water goes out due to evaporation, due to photosynthesis, right? Now, when they close in darkness, high temperature, okay, because they are closed, there is darkness, so temperature increases a little bit, low humidity, and that's why they conserve water, they get water from the roots, right? Next thing we have lenticels. Now stomata is present on leaves, okay, these small pores, they present on the leaves. Now lenticels actually present on the bark of the wood. The bark of the wood, you have seen that outer covering of the wood, the tree, right? So that brown part is called the bark of the wood. How does that breathe, right? How does the respiration happens in that bark? So in that lenticels are present. These small pore kind of structure, but these are spongy pores, okay? These are spongy kind of openings, small spongy openings that are present in the bark of the wood stems. These allow gases diffusion between internal tissues and the atmosphere when stomata are absent. Okay, so when stomata is not there, lenticels present on the bark of the woods help in the exchange of gases between internal tissue and the atmosphere. Done. Okay, next part we have, bacha, we are moving to transportation. Now respiration happens, we ate the food. Now what about transportation? Are we studying about transportation of oxygen, carbon dioxide, pizza, burger? No, we are studying about the transportation of oxygen inside the blood, or we are studying about the transportation in blood vessels. Okay, the cells, the RBCs, WBCs, platelets. Okay, so what happens, bacha? If we have that blood, we see that red blood, sometimes we get hurt, we see that red blood. That is not only red blood cells, it contains 4 things. What does it contains? 4 things. What are that? Plasma, RBC, WBC and platelets. What are these, ma'am? So plasma, bacha, is basically, it happens to transportation of digested food, CO2, waste and hormones. So if you've seen blood, that liquidy part, sometimes if you keep blood for longer time, you'll see the watery structure separating. So that watery part, that liquidy part is called plasma. And that, bacha, helps in the transportation of food. Food is for the cells. What the food is for the cells, not your pizza. Okay, it helps in the transportation of food for the cells, carbon dioxide, waste, hormones, right? Now red blood cells, bacha, that red blood cells, that hemoglobin inside the red blood cells actually helps in oxygen transport. It takes the oxygen from our lungs, from our heart and it gives it to the heart, it gives it to the kidney, to the liver, to the pancreas, gallbladder, right? So it transports oxygen from our lungs to all the parts, all the organs of the body, right? Then, beta, we have white blood cells, WBCs. They produce antibodies to kill pathogens. We have some bacteria, we have some foreign body in our human body or on our body, so that this blood, the WBCs inside our blood, helps to kill that body. Then we come to platelets. So clotting of blood and prevent of loss of blood. So what happens when sometimes we scratch ourselves, right, and it's a little bit deep? So what happens? Blood starts forming up and it gets clotted. There is a layer gets formed on that wound, right? That is what, that are platelets in working, and you get itchy. That itchiness is because the platelets are trying to help you work, help you heal, right? So that itchiness is platelets working. Okay, so that wound is actually healed by platelets. You know, a very interesting thing I remembered, I read somewhere that actually when a woman gets pregnant and a egg is formed inside her uterus, right? So actually your own body treats that egg, treats that fetus as a foreign body, and it tries to kill it. Yes, it tries to kill it. It's just a theory I read somewhere. It tries to kill it. The white blood cells are against it. No. It's a foreign body. Keep it out of my body. Right? But eventually it starts to grow and your body realizes, no. It's my own. Okay. Now, let's move back to the chapter. This transportation, bacha, it happens through some pipes. Right? What, your blood is just flowing inside your body? No, it is happening inside some pipes. They're like blood vessels. We call them blood vessels. It's simply a pipe-like structure. Done. Now this pipe-like structure, we have 3 pipes. First is arteries, we have veins, and we have capillaries. We have arteries, we have veins, and we have capillaries. Now arteries, bacha, the veins, the vessels which carry blood away from the heart. So this artery from A, you will remember, it carries blood away from the heart. So arteries carry pure blood away from the heart, right? So it has good blood, so it has thick walls to protect the blood, right, to transport the blood. So it has thick walls, thick elastic walls, right? Now inside that blood, it's a pure blood. It's a pure red blood, right? So that blood has so much oxygen in it. right? So that's called oxygenated blood. And since these arteries are thick, the pressure is also high because it takes so much blood to the organs. It has to give blood to pancreas, the bile, the liver, the kidney, right? Every part of the body gets blood with the help of arteries. So lots of blood has to go. So the pressure of the blood going inside this vessel is high, and there are some walls. Walls means gates, openings. So inside the arteries, the walls are actually absent, and the main direction artery is artery A away from the heart, right? Now comes to veins. Now if you see, you can actually see some blue colored veins. We do call it veins, right? Some blue colored vessels. If you can, I don't know, you can see blue colored veins on my body as well, right? So those are what? Those are veins. They are present much above towards our screen, and we can actually see them. Okay, arteries, you cannot see arteries because they are deep down in our body, deep down inside our body. Veins are actually on the surface. Okay, so veins are very thin, they are muscular, but inside them these are blue. Why? Because these contains impure blood that does not have oxygen in it. So it has deoxygenated blood. So now you will remember, you see veins that is of blue color. Blue color is an impure blood, not impure, deoxygenated blood, right? So that is your veins. Okay, it carries your blood towards the heart for the purification, right? So it carries the blood towards the heart. Walls are present. Now what happens, bacha? When the veins, it gives blood to the heart, but sometimes that heart is pumping, so blood can come back, right? Blood can come back. So to protect these have walls. So these are something like this. This is your vein. So we have something like this. These are your gates. These are what? Your gates or slash walls in the veins. Walls are present so as to prevent the backflow of impure blood into the organs. It is very important, right? And the pressure is very, very low. Done? Then, bacha, we come to capillaries. Now, what are capillaries? Now, you will study about capillaries in your further studies as well. Okay, in your +1, +2 as well, you will study about capillaries. Now, what happens? See, you have a proper artery, a proper blood vessel, right? From there, the blood has to go into the cell, right? This is a blood vessel. This is a, let me make here, okay? This is a blood vessel and this is your cell. Now, how will the blood go inside the cell? That is your capillary. That is the work of capillaries. So, these capillaries actually helps transfer the blood into the cells. Then these are very, very thin. You will study about the capillary action of tubes. So these are very thin and hence blood flows on its own. It does not require any energy. Then, so it's a thin, very, very thin tubes, right, or walls. This contains both oxygenated and deoxygenated. It puts the oxygenated blood into the cells and it takes the deoxygenated blood out of the cells, right? Then we have, it has medium pressure and it has no walls and exchange zones, nutrients, cells, right? Then, now, normally arteries has oxygenated bloods and veins has deoxygenated bloods. But bacha, there is one artery, that is pulmonary artery. Just near the heart, there is an artery called pulmonary artery that carries deoxygenated blood. Then pulmonary vein that carries oxygenated blood. Then we have aorta and vena cava. We'll study about that. But for now, just understand that aorta is your largest artery. It is the biggest artery of your body and it's present on your heart, right? And vena cava is your largest vein. Understood this whole part? Now, inside this transportation, we have the topic of human heart. It's the biggest topic here. Okay. Now, beta, let's start with the very basic thing for the human heart, and that is, there is some light here. Okay. So, the very basic topic in the human heart is the first, you have to divide this human heart into 4 parts. Okay, just divide this human heart into 4 parts. What are those, bacha? These are left side and right side. Okay, first of all, this is your left side and this is your right side. Done. Now there are again two parts. The upper part, is it visible? I am not sure. The upper part, yes, it will be visible now. Okay, so this right and left part are separated by a very good wall that is called your septum. It is called septum. Where is septum? Yes, so this is your septum, right? This whole part is septum. Now bacha, again this whole left side is divided into two parts. That is your atrium. That is the upper part. A comes first, so the upper part is atrium. So this is left atrium and this is right atrium. Right atrium. This is left ventricle, and this is right ventricle. Done. So how will you remember? Let me just write it again. So this is your left atrium, this is your right atrium, this is your left ventricle, this is your right ventricle. Done. Okay, now what happens is, when you see inside the human heart, what is happening? So what is happening, beta? We know our organs are getting fresh blood. So where are these getting from? These are getting from, we have oxygen travel, we have blood enter into our heart, right? Enter into our heart through pulmonary veins. Now this left atrium, this whole left side, it has purified blood. It has purified blood, and all this blood is now sent to organs, right? But once the blood is sent to organs, they will give some impure blood as well, right? So that enters into our left, this left side. Okay, that is our left side, right? So this is your, oh, I did it again, I was standing, oh, so sorry. Okay, so bacha, let's do it again. Now when you stand like this, okay, you have this as your right atrium. I'm very sorry, that is my mistake. I was just thinking something. This is your right atrium. This bacha is your right atrium. This is your left atrium. This is right ventricle. This is left ventricle. Done. Now, this whole left part, bacha, it has pure blood, okay, which it sends to our organs, and from our organs impure blood comes and it enters into our right side, right? It enters into our right side, it purifies, goes to the left side, and then goes back to the organs. That is the basic functioning of your human heart. How do you have to remember? What do you have to remember? Now this left part, what did I say? Pure blood. That means oxygenated. So you have to remember this. Load. Okay, L-O-R-D. Okay, remember your load. So left side has oxygenated blood. It has oxygenated blood. However, the right side, bacha, it has deoxygenated blood. It has deoxygenated blood. Understood? It has deoxygenated blood. Left side has oxygenated blood. Right side has deoxygenated blood. Okay? Now, sorry. We were talking about aorta. So this aorta, bacha, it takes the blood away from the heart, and it is the largest artery. It is the largest artery, right? Now, this veins, that is your vena cava, that is your largest vein. That is your largest vein. It takes impure blood from our organs, send into our heart to pure it. Right? Now this is your left atrium, right atrium, that is your left atrium, left ventricle, right ventricle. A wall separating left and right side is your septum. Right? And this is your aorta, the largest artery. This is your vena cava from the lower side and the vena cava from the upper body. Okay, we have two vena cavas, one from the lower side of the heart, one from the upper side of the heart. So we have two vena cavas. That's all you can remember. Okay. Okay, that is all about human heart. Now let's understand, we have written everything, let's just read through it, all of it, and you can take a screenshot. Okay, now See, we have right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle. Right? Now what is the location? It is on the upper right. Atrium, A comes first in the alphabet. So it is on the upper side. So it is upper right, lower right. Left atrium is upper left. Left ventricle is lower left. Right? Now, this is very important. Wall thickness. Now, bacha, in the right atrium, in your right atrium, you have very thin walls. You have very thin walls, okay? And in your right ventricle, you have right ventricle. See, right ventricle has impure blood, so you cannot let it go out of your heart. So you require thick walls. So your right ventricle has thick walls, okay? But left ventricle a little less than left ventricle. Done. Now this left atrium again has thin walls. The left ventricle has deoxygenated blood, so it has thick walls. Then now what are their work? Right atrium, it receives the deoxygenated blood, as I told you, right? It receives the deoxygenated blood from the body via this. This is what? This is your vena cava. Your vena cava, the largest vein, right? Then we have right ventricle. This is your right ventricle. Now this pumps the deoxygenated blood into the lungs. Well, right? It pumps the deoxygenated blood into the lungs. Now from the deoxygenated blood, what do we study? Lungs, the alveolus take the carbon dioxide out, puts the oxygen in, pures it, goes back to the heart. Right? So that is their main function through the pulmonary artery. Now, pulmonary artery, we studied about what was pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery is your deoxygenated blood. So through this pulmonary artery, as artery is away from the heart, but pulmonary artery takes the deoxygenated blood from heart away to the lungs. Done? Then we have left atrium. Now what is left atrium? This left atrium, bacha, this actually receives oxygenated blood from the lungs. Lungs give us the oxygenated blood, right? So where did it go? That oxygenated blood goes into the left atrium. It goes into the left atrium via pulmonary veins. That is your oxygenated blood. The vein that has oxygenated blood, the only vein that has oxygenated blood is pulmonary vein, right? And then your left ventricle, your lower left, right? Now this pumps oxygenated blood to the body via aorta. So from this, your left ventricle pumps the blood out of the aorta to your body, which is your largest artery. Largest vena cava takes the deoxygenated blood from the organ. Largest aorta, largest artery aorta takes the oxygenated blood to the organs, right? This veins, the right atrium gets the deoxygenated blood from the organs, and right ventricle sends that blood to the lungs to pure it. Now lung convert that deoxygenated blood to oxygenated blood, and that oxygenated blood comes back to left atrium, goes into left ventricle, and that left ventricle takes that blood, that oxygenated pure blood, to the organs to function, to our cells to function. Oof. Understood? Okay. Now you remember, right? Left side oxygenated blood. Right side deoxygenated blood. Right? Done? Okay. Next, bacha, we have a very important topic. We have a very important topic, and that is exactly, now you said, ma'am, this blood is going into the organs, but how exactly this is happening? What is happening? So the whole process I explained, that is it. Okay, what happens in your organ, or let's say you inhaled, right? You inhaled oxygenated blood. That oxygenated oxygen you inhaled, that oxygen goes into your blood. Now you have oxygenated blood. You have oxygenated blood. Where? In your pulmonary vein that connects your lung to the aorta, right? Now your lung takes the takes the oxygenated blood into your where? Into your, see, this is, come here bro, yeah, so this is your left atrium, right? It connects pulmonary vein from your lungs to the left atrium. So it connects your pulmonary vein from lungs to the left atrium, right? Now left atrium, it gives to left ventricle, left ventricle. Now from here the blood goes into the aorta, it goes into the aorta and then into the blood vessels and into your body, into your organs. Now we know we have capillaries to transfer the blood from our blood vessels to the cells, right? So all that capillary action happens here, and deoxygenated blood comes out of the organs, right? And it goes in your heart through vena cava, that is your largest vein. Now inside, this is your right atrium, right? Now this right atrium, the blood, the impure blood goes into right ventricle, from where it goes into the pulmonary artery that takes the deoxygenated blood into the lungs. Now again, lung purifies, it oxygenates the blood, and the oxygenated blood again goes into the left atrium, right, left ventricle, organ, right atrium, right ventricle, lungs. Then again, left atrium, left ventricle, organ, right atrium, right ventricle, and your lungs. Now here we have aorta to take the blood to the organs, and from the organs deoxygenated blood comes inside the heart, that is your vena cava. Then we have two rather weird arteries and veins. The pulmonary vein that takes the blood, that takes the oxygenated blood from the lung to the heart, and pulmonary artery that takes deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lung. Understood? The whole process, very simple. Okay, next moving on, we have something called double circulation. So what happens, bacha? It's just a term given to a process. What is the process? So process is from the heart gave deoxygenated blood to the lungs, deoxygenated blood to the lungs, then lung purified it, gave it back to the heart. Now that is oxygenated blood. Then it purifies and that is it. So it gives it to the organ. Now what happens from heart to lungs, from lungs to heart? So it's a whole circle, from heart to lungs, from lungs to heart. That is called pulmonary circuit. That is called, because what is connecting? Pulmonary artery, pulmonary veins are connecting this heart and lungs, right? So it is called pulmonary circuit. So the blood passes twice through the heart in each complete circuit, heart to lungs, lungs to heart. That is called pulmonary circuit. Done. Now this heart also gives the blood to organs. So heart to body organs, right? And then body organs, from body organs back to heart. So what happens? Heart to body, body to heart, heart to body, body to heart. This one cycle, heart to body, body to heart, that is called systematic circuit. Understood? We have pulmonary circuit, that is heart to lung, lung to heart. We have systematic circuit, that is heart to body, body to heart, back. Done? So pulmonary circuit is circulation of blood between heart and lungs. Deoxygenated blood becomes oxygenated from the pulmonary. In the pulmonary circuit, the heart gives the deoxygenated blood to the lungs. Lungs oxygenated, let's say, and then oxygenated blood comes back into the heart. Now that same oxygenated blood, the heart gives to the body, and from the body takes all the nutrients, oxygen, and it gives back this deoxygenated blood. Here we have oxygenated blood. The heart gives the oxygenated blood to the organs, and organs give deoxygenated blood back to the heart. So circulation of blood between heart and body parts, oxygenated blood becomes deoxygenated. Then that is your double circulation. Okay, next bacha, we have one very important, let's say, summary of all this, right? Now bacha, what happens is we have lots of other animals as well. Now we studied our heart has 4 chambers, right? Left atrium, left ventricle, right atrium, right ventricle. Similarly, all the other animals like fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, mammals, all these things also have a heart. They also have feelings, right? Actually your feelings are in your brain. Anyways, that is a topic for another chapter, control and coordination. But for now, this is your heart, which only pumps blood. There is no heartbreak. Okay, so the heart, fish has 2 heart chambers, amphibian have 3 heart chambers. Okay, reptiles have 3 heart chambers, birds have 4 heart chambers, and mammals have 4 heart chambers. Now in this bacha, the circulation type is single. Okay, one single circulation is happening. But in amphibians, there is incomplete double circulation. It's there. The heart, this in fish, single circulation. Okay, heart to lungs, lungs to gills, gills to heart. Okay, sorry, gills to heart. Okay, now in amphibians, 3 chambers are there, but incomplete double circulation happens because they only have 3 chambers. They cannot do lungs to heart, heart to lungs. Okay, so they only have incomplete double circulation. Then reptiles, just like lizard, just like our other reptiles, they also have incomplete double circulation just because they have 3 chambers. Then for birds and mammals like us, we have double circulation. Then we have 4 chambers and we have double circulation. Now bacha, we have something called cold-blooded and we have warm-blooded. Now you have seen in the basic conversation you are very cold-blooded, but what that actually means in bio language, that means bacha that there are some animals, there are some organisms that can adjust their temperature according to their atmosphere, and some of them can't, right? So these cold-blooded animals, they cannot adjust their temperature. That means if there is heat outside, then their body will get heated. If there is very cold outside, their body will get heated. Like in the fish, if the water gets heated, the fish will also increase its temperature. The body of the fish, it will increase its temperature. But if the water is heated, then the body of the fish, the temperature of the fish will also get very, very low. So they are cold-blooded animals. Why? Because ma'am, circulation is not happening completely. If circulation is not happening, energy is not being generated, and that energy was used to maintain the temperature. That energy is not being generated in the incomplete double circulation. Energy is not getting generated properly, so they don't have any chance to regulate their temperature. Right? On the other hand, birds, mammals like you, like me, like even when there is so cold, our body is still warm. There is something called body heat. Why? Because our body knows how to generate energy and how to use that energy to maintain its temperature. What actually happens? See, there are more chambers. Okay, we have 4 chambers, so we have more energy. So better separation of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Our oxygenated blood is in left atrium, deoxygenated blood is in right atrium and right ventricle. So there is better separation. So there is more oxygen to reach the cell. We don't have impure deoxygenated blood. However, fishes have only 2 chambers. The blood is not getting oxygenated properly. So deoxygenated blood is mixed with oxygenated blood, so they can't get proper oxygen, right? So we get proper oxygen, right? We have more oxygen, then there is more respiration. That means more glucose is being converted into energy, right? We have more ATP. We remember energy is formed in the form of ATP in mitochondria, adenosine triphosphate. Now we have more energy. That energy is used for temperature regulation. Done? Understood? Okay, so this is the basic definition. In warm-blooded animals, the 4-chambered heart keeps oxygenated and deoxygenated blood separate, allowing efficient oxygen delivery, higher respiration, more ATP, more heat production to sustain body temperature. Then mixing of blood in the 3-chambered hearts. Mixing of blood in the 3-chambered hearts limits oxygen delivery, reducing metabolic heat and preventing the temperature regulation. Understood? I gave you the proper definition as well. You can take a screenshot, everything. Bacha, in my notes, you will get literally everything written. Okay, you have to make your own notes, but you can definitely take advantage of these things as well. I have done so much hard work in making these notes and making these tables and getting the stuff in it, right? So make sure you use it. Okay, next bacha, we have lymphatic system. Ma'am, what is this? We were in the hearts, now we are limbs. What are limbs? Okay, so basically bacha, what happens? So this is your blood vessel, right? And this is your cells, and there is this whole space. This is your tissues. Basically this is your whole space, this whole space between our blood vessels and cells, right? Now bacha, from these blood vessels, they have some pores. And from these pores, plasma, most of the plasma, it goes out from these pores into the tissue fabric, the space between your cell and your blood vessels, the tissue fabric, it goes into them, and that is your fluid. So lymph, that is your lymph. Okay, that is your clear colorless fluid derived from plasma that leaks out of capillaries, collects in the intertissue spaces. Understood? This plasma, it leaks out, yes, okay, so this is your blood vessels and this cell. So in these capillaries, we know that capillaries are connected to the cells, right? So they transport the blood from the blood vessels to the cells. Now from these, plasma comes out, the blood is going into the cells, but sometimes the plasma leaks. So there is now plasma inside between the cell and the blood vessels. This is whole plasma fluid. Now this is fluid. Okay, this is a fluid. So this is called a lymph. What is called? This is called a lymph. Okay, now this lymph, it leaks out of the capillaries, collects in intertissue spaces and returns to the circulatory system via lymphatic vessels. Now this fluid is there. What it does? It provides immunity to us, right? It provides immunity and it helps in fluid balance. It also helps in fat absorption and transportation of stuff. Okay, what is present? RBCs are not present. There are no RBCs in this plasma. Okay, however, WBCs are present, proteins are present, right? So formed due to the leakage of plasma from blood. Now it is not just standing there. It is not just standing there. Okay, after some time, these are something called lymphatic nodes. These are something called lymphatic, oh, not nodes, lymphatic. What was the name of it? It just skipped my vessels. Yes, so these are lymphatic vessels. So this fluid goes into the lymphatic vessels, which transports it back to the heart. Done. These are lymphatic. This is our whole lymphatic system. It's just a colorless fluid derived from plasma which leaks out of the capillaries, right? And it is present in the intertissue spaces and it returns to the circulatory system via lymphatic vessels. Done? Okay, now bacha, next we have transportation in plants. So everything we are going to study: nutrition in plants, nutrition in human body. Then we studied respiration in plants, respiration in human bodies. Now we studied transportation in bodies. Now we study transportation in plants as well. This is very basic. We just have two kinds of transportation. First is xylem, next is phloem, right? Or you call it phloem. Okay, whatever you want to call it. Now bacha, xylem. What is xylem? So basically it includes xylem. Let's understand the basic stuff. Okay, it includes vessel, it includes trachea, it includes a xylem fiber, and it includes a xylem parenchyma. Done. Now what happens bacha? This xylem, now my root, it needs water. Now my plant, it needs water, like leaf needs water. But how will that water? We put the water in the sand, in that mud, right? How does that reach the plants? It reaches the leaves. That is the transportation of minerals and nutrients done by xylem, right? So what this does, these upper arrows you see, right? So this is the xylem transferring the water, the mineral salts from these roots into these leaves. Okay, into these leaves. Now water is transported only upwards. So water goes, leaf is like, please give me water. So xylem is like, okay, I am at the rescue, I will give you water. Now leaf is like, can you please take the excess water out as well? Xylem is like, hey, no, I'm an alpha, I don't do stuff, all this stuff, I helped you once. Okay, so it just takes the water up, and as its only function. That is why it is called unidirectional. Okay, so transport in xylem requires physical forces. Now, of course, this water is going against the gravity. Okay, so we require some energy to take it above, right? Take it in the opposite direction of the gravity. So what happens? We need some pull. We need the pull, that is called transpirational pull. Done. And we need some push, so that is called root pressure. It is pressuring the water upwards. And transportation pull or transpiration pull, that is done by eventually that is done by photosynthesis. When photosynthesis or these leaves, right, it happens, water goes out, right? Evaporation happens. So it is pulling the water out. That is your transpirational pull done by xylem. Right? So what is the transpirational pull? Now, this just keeps the water above due to photosynthesis, and that is, bacha, your transpirational pull. Done. Okay, understood. Now, bacha, let's see what are the components of phloem. What is the phloem? So, okay, I'll tell you. The phloem, see, it has sieve tubes, it has companion cell, it has phloem parenchyma, and we have phloem fiber. It also has almost the same stuff. Done? Okay, one thing you need to know, in xylem, all these three things are dead. All these vessels, trachea, xylem fiber, this is dead. Only the parenchyma part is living, bacha. Okay, this is the only living part. Done. On the other hand, these three are the living parts, and this part is the dead part of phloem. Now, what is the function of phloem? It actually just transports the food. It transports water. Xylem transports water and nutrition. It transports the food, that is known as translocation. Done. So, water is also transported in both upward and downward direction. So, this is bidirectional. So, phloem is, bacha, the tissue. This, you see this hole. So, the tissue with which this is made up of, it is actually phloem. Okay. So, transport of food in phloem requires energy in the form of ATP. Done. Okay, so food is going or water is going in the upward direction, and it is working against the gravity. So we require some energy, and that energy is given in the form of ATP. Done. Okay, next, bacha, we have excretion. Ma'am, that's stuff. Excretion. Actually, that is not excretion. That is something else. What is excretion? So, there are two things, bacha. One is excretion and one is egestion. What you are talking about, the business that you do every morning, that is egestion, not excretion. Hey, ma'am, we used to think that is excretion. So you used to think wrong. Okay, so it is actually excretion and egestion. It is egestion. Now, what is excretion? Now, see. Removal of harmful metabolic waste from the body. Ma'am, this is the same. What is the difference? So, egestion, beta, see. Egestion is the removal of undigested and unabsorbed food. There is a very much difference between metabolic waste and undigested waste. Okay, there are some waste products. What are those waste products? There is urea, uric acid, ammonia. All these are formed in our body after the whole digestion part. And there are some CO2 that we exhale out. There is some excess water, that is our sweat. Right, and there are some mineral salts. Now your sweat is also salty. If you liquid your sweat sometime accidentally, so you will see this is salt. Your tears, these are also salty. So we have some waste, that is mineral salts. It comes out through sweat, through tears, and excess water, again sweat, tears. Right? What are these? How does these come from? Urea, uric acid, ammonia. How do they come out of our body? So that is what, bacha, excretion. Right? So in excretion, all these urea, uric acid, ammonia, all that come out through urine. Okay. Now, how that happens, bacha? See, we have a kidney. That is, we know we have kidney. Right? So what happens is, this is your urine pathway. Right? So what happens in your kidney? All the this stuff comes, right? This heart, it has so many ways, the cells has generated so many ways, and now it's like, how do I take this out? So kidney is like, okay, I'll purify it, give it to me, and then we take the kidney. So kidney does what? It purifies and it produces urine. It produces urine and it maintains water balance. It eliminates the toxic chemicals. That is the basic work of kidney. Now, how that happens, beta? On these kidneys, like we have these some structures. We have these kind of structures. Those are called nephron. Those are called nephron. How exactly the urine is formed is what we are going to study. Now, see, these nephrons, bacha, they look like something. This, ma'am, what is this? What is this bundle of things? So, nothing. Just focus on this yellow part. Okay, the focus on this yellow part. Now, what happens, bacha? This is your branch of renal artery. Now, inside this, blood comes in. Okay, blood comes in to get purified. Right? Now, from here, what happens? This glomerular filtration happens. So what happens is, this is your Bowman's capsule. This big thing is, bacha, what? Your Bowman's capsule or glomerulus. Right? What is glomerulus? I'm so sorry. I'm just doing this. I'm doing this since my childhood. I take the names a little bit weird. Okay? But what is this? Glomerulus. Okay, and that is this big part is your Bowman's capsule. Now what happens? Now this blood comes. Okay, and here the blood is filtered. Okay, it takes all the stuff that is required. Good blood stays in, and all the bad stuff, the bad nutrients, all the undigested nutrients, the acids, the urea, the uric acid, it comes out. Okay, so all the waste, the glucose, the water, the amino acids, all that excessive salts from the blood are filtered at this Bowman's capsule, and that is called glomerular filtration. Then, so this is the initial step of filtration. Now what happens? Now this blood is still, it is revolving around this, right? These vessels are just here. They are not going anywhere. Okay. Now what happens, bacha? Now focus on this yellow colored vessel. Now what happens? There is all this stuff and the kidney is now trying to push it outwards. But blood vessel is like, wait. I see something very important. Give that back to me. It's like kidney is like, what is that? Can't you just filter in one go? It's like, no, I need 3-step authentication. So that blood is like, I want that amino acid back and the glucose back. I need that. So in this whole process, in this tubular part of nephron, where you see this yellow part, this intertwined part, right? Now on this part, selective reabsorption happens. That is, useful substances like glucose, amino acid, salts, and major amount of water from the filtrate are reabsorbed back by the capillaries surrounding the nephrons. There are so many capillaries that are connecting this nephron back to the blood vessels. So what happens? These capillaries reabsorb all the important stuff back into the blood vessels. Then now the thing is, it's finally going into the collecting duct. Okay, we have 3 things. We have Bowman's capsule, we have tubular part, right? We have capillaries. Now the third part is collecting duct. These are the main 3 parts. What are these? Bowman's capsule, tubular part, and this collecting duct. Now Bowman's capsule purifies the blood, and this tubular part again reabsorbs some things. Then finally there is production of urine, and it almost goes into the collecting duct. But then again, we see tubular secretion. That means whatever the urea, the extra water, the salts, now blood is like checking itself. Am I okay? Is anything impure left? So it sees that some extra water, some urea, some acid, some salts are still left, which it has to transfer into urine, right? So it has to transfer into nephron. So this again blood comes like nephron. Bhai, please bro, please take some stuff now. Okay, nephron is like, okay, I am a good person, give it to me. So some of the urea, extra water, salts are secreted into the tubule, which open up into the collecting duct. So finally, when all the waste product is collected and third step authentication is done, this your urine is formed and it is in the collecting duct. Okay, and bacha, this after this whole, these are that, okay, these are the whole nephron starts from there and then it goes into your bladder, right? It goes into your bladder. This is the ureter. Okay, so this whole urine is formed. This whole process happened in these nephrons, right? So the urine is formed. So ureter transports this urine towards the urinary bladder. So this bacha, this is your ureter. These tubes is your ureter, right? And these were your nephrons. Now this is your what? This is your urinary bladder, where all the urine is collected here. Okay, and hence we have urethra that transports urine out of this. This is the opening that transports urine out of your body. So this is the whole process of what? This was the process of what, bacha? This was excretion. This was excretion. Only when the formation of urine transports the urine out of the body, purifying the blood through kidney and nephrons, all that is excretion. Now bacha coming to egestion. Okay, I have not taken egestion. Okay, so egestion is simply removal of undigested and unabsorbed food. So all the food that was unabsorbed, it goes into what? We studied it from large intestine, the water is absorbed. Okay, so it goes into rectum, right? And after rectum through anus, it goes out. That is called egestion. Okay, removal of undigested and unabsorbed food is called egestion. Removal of metabolic waste through urine, like urea, uric acid, ammonia, that is called excretion. Now we have studied all the processes through what? In plants as well. So excretion we also have to study in plants as well, right? So in excretion, bacha, you have seen some whitish substance when you pluck the leaves of the plants or leaves from the trees. Those are just waste material of plants. Obviously, there are other things. See, oxygen and carbon dioxide is diffused through stomata. Right? So actually the waste product for plants is what? Oxygen, and the important product is carbon dioxide. That's how we live. That's why we are able to get the oxygen, right? So it is diffused through stomata, right? Now excess water is removed by transpiration. We have seen, right? It goes and it evaporates and all that process. So it is removed by transpiration. Shedding of old leaves and barks. If you have seen very old trees, they have barks that are really dried up, right? And they sheds. Done. And old leaves, that yellowish leaves, they are now a waste, so it sheds. Now many plant waste products are stored in cellular vacuoles. Now we studied that in cell chapter also we studied, right? We have vacuoles in the plant cells. So many of the waste is stored in that vacuole, right? So other waste products like latex, resins, gums are stored in old xylem cells. We studied about xylem. So in that, something like this. In the xylem cells, they have latex, resins, gums. These are actually waste products of plants. But we actually use the rubber, we actually use the gums, the resins, right? So that is a very useful product for us. And plant also secretes some waste substances into the soil around them. So plants also give some waste substances into the soil through the roots. Okay, that is it, bacha. We have finally completed the whole chapter, that is your life processes. We started with nutrition, we did respiration, and we did transportation, and we did excretion. Excretion and egestion are very different. Now you understand. Okay. Now that whole diagram of human digestive system is very important. Human heart is important. We'll very much practice about that. We are coming live every day, so subscribe the channel. Okay. That is it for this video, everyone. I hope you are very ready for the battle of 10th class boards. Right? I'll see you in the next chapter. Study hard. Okay. Bye.